Welcome, everyone. We're jumping on for my Marketing as Authors podcast.
Yay.
Happy Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? I think it is.
It's Tuesday. It is Tuesday.
I
That's what
put,
I do know.
yes, I know. I just do whatever my Google Calendar tells me to, honestly. Where do I need to be? What do I need to be doing? My calendar will tell me.
There you
I'm Claire
go.
Jones, if we haven't already met. I am a queer fantasy romance author as well as a small publisher that supports other writers in getting their works shared with the world. And this is my podcast where I interview the amazing and inspiring authors in my network to discuss the marketing strategies that have hopefully propelled our careers forward in meaningful ways. Although we do get into the ones that do not work as well because everything's a lesson at the end of the day.
This is true.
If you're joining us, please like, comment, share below. Let us know that you're here. And today I'm talking to Maggie. I'm so glad to have you. She's another one of
Yay.
my finds.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for reaching out to me. It was awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. One of her TikToks was on my FYP, and I was like, I need to talk to her.
I have follow-up questions.
Yes. And based on our pre-conversation before we started recording, I my instinct was correct.
Nice. Excellent.
So first,
Cool.
let's start with a rundown of your books. What are they? How many? And what do you have planned going forward?
Okay, so book-wise, I have in the course of my career, I think I have over 200 books out in the world under five pen names, four of which are kind of active, or at least I promote them. I don't necessarily
Wow.
release new. I've kind of slowed down on the releasing schedule big time, obviously. 200 took a lot of releasing.
Yeah.
I finished my first romance novel in 2002 and have been writing kind of religiously ever since. Some might say compulsively, it might be a problem. Um, and so, yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. And then I had like a traditional publishing deal back in like 2014, had bad experience with that. And
Hmm.
then I started dabbling in self-pub around the same time. Around 2014, I started dabbling. 2015, more dabbling and learning. 2016, I went all in with it. I went full time with it in 2017, I think 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. Yeah, and haven't really looked back. And I think I'm the biggest fan of self-publishing these days. So I
That's
love
so
to go
fascinating.
on and on. Yeah, it's led to some
2002.
great things.
That is
Yeah, and
so
then I was
damn
doing some
good.
ghostwriting in there for a couple of years when I was first started self-publishing. I was doing a lot of ghostwriting to help pay the bills. So
Mhm.
some of those 200 books were for other people and under different
Okay.
pen names and things. So yeah,
Okay. Okay. So, like, what did the publishing landscape even look like in 2002?
there was no self-publishing really. I mean, there
Yeah.
probably was some way to do it that I'd never heard of, but it was like kind of an unknown thing. So I kind of was forced to do the whole old-fashioned
Ah.
trad pub route at the start. And I had a weird little route where like my very first book, I sat on it for a solid year. Like I didn't know what to do with it. I was young and dumb and I had no idea what to do with it. And I didn't want to show it to anyone because I had like major imposter syndrome. And so I was working at this bar and then this guy, it was this like really boring dead day. I was alone bartending and this guy was sitting there just to watch this soccer game that was on. He asked me to put it on and it was just the two of us. So, if you're alone in a bar bartending, you end up just like having conversations. And so I was just talking to this guy and he randomly, I don't even think I told like the guy I was seeing at the time, but I was like, I ended up telling him I finished a book. And this guy gave me such a hard time. He was like, wait, you finished a book and you're just like not going to do anything with it? And he got so angry at me.
Ah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't know what to do. And I feel like it's probably not very good. And so he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he just starts jotting down this thing. He's like, look, my best friend's fiance is an agent for this like big, it's like a legit agency. And he's like, send it to her. I'm just going to tell her you're sending it to her and do it. And then so I ended up getting an agent like on my first book, which in hindsight, I'm like,
Wow.
how? It was so bad. But she sent it out and we got lots of rejections, but they were positive enough rejections that it kept me going for a
Yeah.
while. And then I did the smart thing and actually started taking classes and joining critique groups and like, actually learning how to write a book kind of like after
Yeah.
I got an agent. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, and so eventually, but then it was just a series of from 2002 to like 2014, it was just a series of rejection letters and more books. That's why people are like, when I started self-publishing, everyone's like, wow, you rapid releasing like crazy. And I'm like, that's because I had like a backlog of 10 years of books to just like put
Oh,
out, you
I
know? So
see. Okay.
yeah, Yeah. And some of them, honestly, I went back to that first book, the one that got me an agent, and I was like, I wonder if I can turn this into something good. And I read like the first three chapters, and it very quickly became clear that it would be easier for me to just like write a new book than to try to salvage
Yeah, yeah.
that sucker. I'm still amazed that that got me any traction at all. It was such a ripoff of like Harry Potter and Twilight. It was like this like ripoff of like all the popular books, but whatever.
I mean, I can
I
think it would have
mean,
been better off on AO3.
it definitely would have. But again, that was not even a thing, I think, at that
True,
time. It was like,
true.
and yeah, but in hindsight, I'm like, isn't that how we all start though? Like a little bit of fan fiction kind of based books to get you started
Yeah, yeah. Fan fiction
and
is
then take it
the
off from
gateway
there.
drug to a writing career.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I think that's what we all kind of start by being like, I want to write something like this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
we try. So
So
whatever. Sorry, go ahead.
are you slowing down at all going
Yes.
forward?
I majorly slowed down. So I've transitioned over to screenwriting. And once I did, I took my first screenwriting course like 5 years ago, I think it is now. And once I finished my first screenplay, I was like, ooh, I like this. I like this a lot. And I honestly can't believe that I waited that long to even try it.
Mm,
But I did. And but I was like, I like this. I want to spend more and more time doing this. How can I but I was very much on the hamster wheel of the Amazon hamster wheel at that point. I was making good money. Like I've been making a nice six-figure income since 2017, but it was very much new release based. It was probably like 90% new release driven and like 10% backlist. So I was like, I want to do this, but I had no time for it because I had to keep putting out the next book,
yeah,
the next book, the next book, the next book
yeah,
for all these different pen names. And I was like juggling, I felt like I had like 20 plates in the air that I was juggling. And
yeah.
I was like, how do I get off? How
That's
do
like
I get off
20
this
different
ride? I want to do something
personalities.
different. Yeah. And I wanted to take a break. I think I was also like in hindsight, I'm like, I think I was a little burnt out too, like I kind of hate that term, but I think there was an element of like, okay, it was starting to get very formulaic, like all of my pen names. Every time I was getting like a little bored, I'd just start a new pen name. But then I was like, now I'm doing all of these pen names for so long. And I just kind of felt like I was dialing it in. And that's not a fun feeling. It's like no creative wants to feel like they're just phoning it in all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, so then my question became, okay, like I want to focus more on screenwriting. And I actually got traction pretty quickly. It's funny. I feel like I had like a similar experience in screenwriting that I did with in the writing, like novel writing, because I got my very first screenplay got like this great traction, like this producer wanted it and blah, blah, blah. And now 5 years later, nothing actually happened with that first one, but all these other like doors have opened. I feel like it's like the universe's way of being like, okay, keep going. You get like just like a hit of dopamine, like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
the first
yeah.
hit. And then it's like keep chasing that high, lady. So that's what I've been doing. But so then I had to figure out how to be able to get off the hamster wheel to focus and be able to write and take more classes and learn screenwriting. So I ended up going the route that a number of people did at around that time, which is like the Shopify direct sales
Yes.
route. Um, and I know people have had varying success with that. I have found my happy place with it, which is Shopify doesn't make me mad amounts of money, but it makes enough money to cover the ads, and then it keeps my Amazon sales nice and steady. So
Oh,
I
interesting.
yeah, and it was quite the learning curve. Like it was like a solid year of learning how to make that happen. But now for the last like 2 years, I can actually take the time to just work on screenwriting because my Amazon's and wide retailer sales are like at an even thing. I'm not like winning any awards for my income, but it's stable and I can
Yeah. I mean, that's what we can all
that's
hope
like
for,
all
right?
that's all I ever wanted was just to get the backlist to be like baking it, earning its due basically.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did your past experiences contribute to this career, or was it complete 180 for you?
For the screenwriting, I mean,
Well, writing in general, I think.
yeah, I mean, I think over the years I've had a number of jobs, but none of them were in marketing or anything. I always had like kind of I at one point I was a princess at parties,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
was a
yeah.
bartender and waitress. I was always the person like I wanted to have like a real job, but I really just could never give up writing. And then I had like receptionist jobs and executive assistant jobs. So like a lot of things that taught me different skills, but none that were in the immediate like
Hmm.
I always envy those people. I've met so many successful authors who like their background is in marketing. And I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. Like, I wish I'd had that background. But no, I was over here slinging cocktails. Like, what was I doing? I was not doing a business, but
Yeah.
it's fine. It all led to the right place eventually. I think it just, I think I consider myself a pretty slow learner. Like it takes me a long time to learn the lessons, but I'm what I lack in quickness, I make up for in persistence. Like I will stick with a problem until I figure it out. So, I feel like marketing was that for me. Like over the years, I remember when I very first started self-publishing, I remember like being terrified to send out a newsletter. Like I had to overcome the weird, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything seemed like monumental to me
Yeah.
when I first started out, but I had to keep just like kind of plugging along and figuring it out. I will never forget one of the best life lessons I ever learned in publishing was from a YouTube video of from the 20 books to 50K
Yeah.
conference. And it was like one of their first years. And maybe it was the first year, I'm not even sure, but it was Martha Carr. Is that right? I feel like I'm blanking on her name right now. I think it's Martha Carr. But she was speaking at this thing, and it was like I had an infant, and it was one of those moments that you're just like, it was like a fever dream because I was like feeding my child in the middle of the night, and I was barely awake. I was like in that weird zone, where I'm like, what time is it? What day is it? And so I was like decided while feeding him, I was like, I guess I'll catch up on marketing videos from 20 books to 50K. And this was the point in time when I was like afraid to send out newsletters, and like I was like that bad at it. Like I was like, I don't want to tell anyone that I'm writing, let alone sell things to people. But she was addressing the crowd and she said, I know, like I know you are all gonna make it. And then she qualified it. She goes, if you get your egos out of the way, you will make it. And I had a moment, like this light bulb moment, because I knew from having heard her speak a little bit earlier, she wasn't talking about ego like, oh, I'm so great. She was talking ego like that voice in the back of your head that's like, no one wants to hear what I have to say, and blah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that kind of ego. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh my God, like I need to get my ego out of the way. I need to stop letting, and she kind of was making the point that like, if you are your own marketing director, then like either hire a marketing director or you either fire yourself if you're like, I don't like to sell,
Yes.
or learn how to sell. Like you have to just kind of get over it, and at that point I definitely did not have the money to hire a marketing person, so I was like, I need to get out of my own way and just do it anyway. That's my motto these days, is just do it anyway,
Yeah.
because I'm going through another round with screenwriting. Screenwriting is forcing me to kind of go through another round of like imposter syndrome and visibility issues and like all the gross mental ick,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm going through that all over again. But I feel like I at least know this time, like the secret. The secret is you just do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
You
always
just
say
act anyways.
the entrepreneurship and business ownership and all of the stuff that's entailed in that is the fastest path to identify your shadow work.
Yes, it
Because
totally is.
it's going to be put on a fucking pedestal and you're going to have to
Yeah.
address it or else you're just going to keep self-sabotaging.
Exactly. Yeah. If you just, it's like so much more. I never would have thought that if you told me that 10 years ago, I never would have believed you that like the secret to success is really doing the mindset work. And it sounds so cheesy and like
Yeah.
whatever, but it's
Yeah.
true. It's 100% the truth. And now it's like, but I think the more you do it, the easier it gets to a certain degree. Like it's still
Yeah.
icky and bad, but it's also like,
It's like, oh, I've
you know
seen
that you
you
can
before.
yeah, I
You
think you know that you're not
tricky.
going to die. You're like, it might feel like you're going to die, but you're like,
Oh man,
I know I'll
no.
come out the other side
Like
of this. It's,
like I'm on my fourth business at this point.
are you? Yeah.
I, I've seen businesses fail. I thought it was the end of the fucking world when that
Yeah.
happens. And
Yeah.
this is my most successful business yet because I don't take it personally anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. And you can get your ego out of the way,
Yeah.
just like get those voices, put them in their place, like I honestly, so you found me on TikTok, and I will tell you, to that started me starting to talk about screenwriting actually was just a challenge to myself, because I realized that I was hitting some weird mental blocks there, like I had in the indie book world. And I was
Oh,
like,
the
I'm
act of
determined
being
to,
perceived. Oh,
yes. And like people are going to look at me, they're going to see me. Like I'd gotten over that to the book world in the sense that I had figured out how to sell. I could even put my face in front of the camera, but I kept it all about the books. And
Hmm.
it's so much easier to talk about a product or
Yes.
like characters or
Yes.
other people than like talk about yourself. But with screenwriting, you're really not allowed to talk about the project all that much. Like I've got many that are in the works and close, but there's like nothing I can say because you're like, everyone's all secretive and shady until things are signed and whatever. So, and then I had, I worked with this ads guy, Cameron Snow. He helped me set up the Shopify store or whatever. And he made a really good point at one point because the one that I got produced was another book, another author's book I adapted and it became a Hallmark movie. And, even when she was pinging me and things, he's like, honestly, if I go to your page, I think she got the wrong person. Like, cause there was nothing that said I write screenplays, I adapt books, like nothing. I was just like, wasn't owning it at all. And I was like, I don't want to do it because it means talking about myself. It means like me being me, not just like hiding, pretending to be a character or like, hiding behind a scene that, or like, I don't know. It's just, it was a whole another level for me of just terror of like
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
seen and having to like
I
put
mean,
myself out there. So
when
yeah,
people can see
those,
both your strengths and your flaws and the pros, the cons, the whole package, then you also have to own that whole package too.
yeah, you have to own it and you have to be out there and you have to like be okay with the fact that people are going to judge you and they're going
Yes.
to say things. And, I said before this started, we were talking and I was like, there's some little part of me that's like, I think for my, like most of my life, I confused confidence with bragging,
Yeah.
or like I was kind of taught, not nothing against my family or school or anything like that, but that's kind of like what I walked away with was that, you need to be and I think right now I'm also trying to learn the lesson of like being humble is not the same. You can be humble and not insecure.
Yes.
You can be
Absolutely.
and you can be confident and not bragging. Like these are two different things. And it's difficult. And like not to pull the female card too much or anything, but I think a lot of that is like as women we are told like not to brag. And it's interesting. I actually got this feedback not long ago where I was pitching on this site where it's like you pitch screenplays and whatever, and you get feedback from the people you're pitching to. And I pitched an adaptation, and it was one that I co-wrote with a friend, and it was a bestseller. Like we have like best-selling things. We hit like really low on Amazon. We made lots of money off of it. It was a good seller. So these are things that you would normally put in a pitch because like,
Mhm.
if it's based off a best-selling thing. So I like did the whole pitch and at the bottom it was like based on a book that like, and I spelled out because I was trying to overcome that. I'm like, nope, this is not the time to be humble. This is the time to be confident, right? And I got this response that was like basically told me I was a cocky B word because I was like bragging and I like it hit me so hard because it was like where I am the most sensitive where I'm like I
Mhm.
never want to come across, I'm like so afraid of being seen as whatever. But then I was like, then I reread it with the eyes that I was like, oh my God, this person is bitter. Like, there was like a lot of weird bitterness in it. And I also had the thought of like, would I have gotten the same feedback if I was a guy? I don't know. Like maybe he's just bitter all around, but it felt a little like I don't know, it's just weird feedback to get where I'm like, I literally just stated the case and like
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
I
But
honestly just did a panel a few weeks ago at Worldcon where the topic was visibility in an oppositional world. And as a
oh, interesting.
queer romance author, I was put on the panel to talk about my queerness. And yet, when I got to the panel and we started answering the questions, I was like, I haven't gotten opposition because of my queerness. I've gotten opposition because I'm a woman.
Oh, interesting. That
Yeah.
is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think, part of me before I got that was a little like, it's in your head. No one thinks you're bragging. No one's going to say you're whatever. If you're just, I've had so many, like, I worked with this coach who was just like, just state, like, you can't be seen as bragging if you just state the facts. But I'm
Yeah.
like, but I literally just stated the facts. But I think yeah. But I am also like, that's a reflection of you, not me. And I
Yes.
need
That's
to,
a you
I'm
problem.
trying to, that's a you problem for sure. And I'm trying to, like, get more comfortable with that. And there's going to be, there's going to be trolls no matter where you go. And it's just, but that's the thing is that like, I'm like, when I first started self-publishing, 1-star reviews killed me, like they killed me. And then you put out 200 books and you're like, I'm probably getting 1-star reviews every day, all day. And I wouldn't know it because I don't, who has the time to look at 200 books? Like,
I
you know what I
mean,
mean? Like, Yeah.
It's the
Who
same
cares?
if you're doing self pub or trad pub, because in the trad pub, you're getting rejections from agents, you're getting rejections from presses, you're getting
Yeah.
rejections that way, or you can go self pub and you're getting rejections from readers
Just
and
right. Or
random
just
strangers on the internet.
yeah, I honestly believe that in this day and age, putting anything out there creatively, putting anything out there is like an act of courage because no matter what you do, people are just gonna, you could be as mild and harmless and kind and sweet and pleasing as possible, and you'll still get somebody who's like, you offended me, and you're going to be like, okay, my existence is offensive. I don't know, but I think it's like, it just requires this level of courage and there's no getting around it. Like I get a lot of people asking me like, the writers who want to talk about whether they should go trad pub or they want to go, or should I do self pub? And the thing is, I think I like, and I am honestly like, whatever suit floats your boat. Like, there's no right answer. It's just up to you, honestly. Like, there's pros and cons to both. Like, I love self pub because of reasons, but there might not be your reasons. But the thing that drives me nuts though is that there seems to be this impression that if they go the trad pub route, they're going to be able to avoid a lot of the things that we just talked about. And I'm like, I don't want
Not
to be the one to burst your bubble,
necessarily.
but
Yeah.
you're going to have to market. You're going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to do like, you're going to face rejections.
Yep.
There's just no way around it.
Yep.
If
Yep.
you want to have any, like, if you want to write as a hobby, then that's a different story. But if you want to write it as a profession, then there's no getting around having to put things out there and put yourself out there behind it. It's just no getting around it, really.
That's exactly why I have both self pub authors and trad pub authors on this podcast.
Nice. Yeah. To
Because
show that there's
you
no getting
still have
around
to
it.
market. You still have
Yeah.
to do the thing.
You
Like,
still do. I know. And I think there's like this really leftover idea of that from like way back in the day. Like
oh,
I'm guessing there was a point in time where maybe that wasn't the expectation, but those days are long gone,
the
like you now
only
have to pull your weight.
the only instances that I've seen the whole like hermit author lifestyle work is
Yeah.
old white men who
Yeah,
have been
totally.
trad pubbing since the 90s, if not the 80s.
Exactly, exactly. And they're just left over from a different era. And that's not, yeah, it's just not the
Yeah,
case
it's a myth.
anymore.
It's a myth these
Yeah.
days. I'm sorry, but you are going to have to go talk to people.
Yeah, it's just a bummer. I know.
I
It's a
know.
big bummer.
Sorry to
I'm finding
inconvenience.
that I know, and in screenwriting, I think I'm hitting it at a different level that I'm just not used to, but I'm trying to adapt to it quicker. And I do think that's the nice thing about going through it once, twice, 20 times in a career is that the more you do it, the more it's like, oh, okay, this might be new terrain, but I've been through this before, just in a different way. But in screenwriting, there like, I do a lot of collaborating in the book world just because I enjoy talking to people and being around. I enjoy it, and especially if you start doing it for any length of time, it gets really lonesome if you don't. So I do a lot of co-writing and collaborating and that sort of thing. But it's a whole other level in the screenwriting world because you cannot make a movie without other people. You know what I mean? You can do the indie book thing on your own. You really can't in Hollywood, like unless you are self-funding, writing, directing, and acting in it. It's pretty much impossible to do your own thing. So I think I'm like kind of coming up against this in a new realm now, which is like, oh, I can't really pick and choose like, oh, this week I don't want to be seen and talk to anyone. It's like, well, okay, but then you're not going to progress in your career
Yeah.
most likely
Yeah.
unless you kind of overcome the fact like I have to be able to pitch to people, which is new to me as a self. I haven't had to do that since the trad pub days. And even then it was like you just send a query letter and then the agent, this time around it's like, oh, if I want to pitch myself, I have to get on Zoom calls like right, and be able to say like, here's why I'm great, my story's great, and blah blah blah, and it's just like what?
I mean,
But
I feel
nevertheless,
like some writers and indie authors feel like they need to do that on social media still. Is this whole
yeah,
pitching ourselves, pitching our books, that kind of stuff.
yeah, there definitely is that now for sure. Much more than even when I first started. Like I feel like I got in the door with self-publishing when it was still like it was like
Yeah.
at the toward the end of like the golden era, the golden
Yeah.
age when it was like and I I'm grateful that I did because I am not sure how I would have fared if I started today, to be all to totally honest, like, which is not to discourage anyone who wants to start now, because I do think that it's possible. I think it's just a different set of rules than what
Yes.
I was playing by back then. There was a much more room for error
Yeah.
when I started. Like, I switched genres like 20 times for the first couple of years, that I like was like one I did like a steampunk like fantasy one week, and then the next was like this new adult steamy thing, and then I did this like clean sweep, which, and I'm so grateful I got to do that, because I really got to experiment with what I actually wanted to. Because I think that's one thing people don't really understand too, is that, like, if they're new, is that once you commit to doing a series and a thing, it's like, well, you're going to be doing that genre for quite
Yep.
a while. And
Yep.
it took me a while to figure out where I wanted to be. And then obviously, even then, I've switched. Like, I started up all these different pen names, and I'm not one to stay in my lane for sure. And I think that's okay though. That's the beauty of, like, we before this started, we were talking about how there's no one way
Yeah.
to the top. And I think, we tend to hear the people who do it one way, or similar ways, but I don't know. I feel like I'm one of those outliers where I'm like, I definitely did not follow any of the rules. I made nothing but mistakes the first 5 years of self-publishing. It was like,
I think there's something too, like what you were saying earlier. One of my favorite phrases is imperfect action over perfect inaction.
yes, 1,000,000%. Yeah.
Like
Just
I
do it
would,
anyways. Yeah.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
would rather throw something out there that's imperfect and incomplete and get like honest critical feedback on it than having it built within a vacuum silo where like there's only me
Yeah.
in my own head.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're totally right. I think with both writing, first of all, and like the actual act of writing,
Yeah.
I think I wrote a lot of books, but I'm like also like I like to think that I got better and better. Like, I'm telling you, that first book was
Oh,
the worst. I
yeah.
needed 200 books
Yeah.
to. I
I
needed
mean,
like I needed a solid dozen before I started feeling like maybe I got this, and even then, I'm like, I was wrong. I look back and I'm like, oh, you got some aspects, but not others. But it's hard. It's a lot of work, and I think the more you do it, like, one of my favorite bits of advice that I ever heard was from Maisie Yates. I'm like blanking on
yes.
everyone's names today, but she had this great. Someone said, they were like, I'm a new author. What advice would you give? And she said, learn to finish. And I was like, yes, that is amazing advice, because there's so much that you learn just by learning, like, getting to the end and then
Yeah.
being able to start over and do it over again.
Yeah.
There's so much that you learn along every step of the way, and that's, it's when I got a produced credit, I was kind of like, there's like a lot of fanfare around getting a produced credit, because it is really hard to get one. But then I was like, I think I see why now, though, is because it's like a whole learning process just from signing it to it being released. There was so much learning that occurred just in that, just being able to hit the end and watch it come. There's so much learning that goes on from beginning, middle, and end that you can't really replicate unless you go through it. You have to go, there's no way around things. You have to go through them. And it's the same thing with business. I think that you have to just, I've been watching so many business leaders on YouTube and things like
Mm.
that. And so many of them are like, test as much as you can beforehand, get some real feedback. Because, yeah, a lot of it is like, if you theoretically, a lot
Yeah.
of things should work.
Yeah.
But
Theoretically, I think I'm awesome.
yeah, theoretically, this is the best script known to man,
However,
but
are
you're
there
too
people
confident.
out there that validate that for me?
Exactly. But is anyone else going to buy? Yeah, especially when it comes down to, like, we do not operate in silo. We have to make sure that the readers want it. We have to meet their expectations.
Yeah.
And in the entertainment world, we have to meet the producer's expectations and the network's expectations,
Yeah.
and ultimately the viewer's expectations. But yeah, it would be nice. And that's the thing. I'm like, I think, people need to give some real thought to, like, do you want to do this as a career? Because if
Oh,
it is just which
yes.
is, there is nothing wrong with it not being a career. Like, my husband is the best cook I've ever met. He is legitimately the best cook in the world. But within the first couple of years of dating, I very quickly learned that I should stop telling him to open a restaurant
Yeah.
because he doesn't want that, because
Yeah.
it's his joy and what he loves to do. And so for him with cooking, like, he wants to keep it his joy and his passion and something that he can, and I'm like, that is a beautiful thing. In some way, I'm like, it doesn't mean he loves cooking possibly more than I love writing, because he doesn't want to monetize that. And so part of me, like, when people are talk about how they don't want to do these things, I'm like, well, then maybe, like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be a career. It's
Yeah.
it's a weird pressure once you start making, especially once I went full time with it. It's a weird pressure when you love suddenly becomes also like your income and you how you pay
Yeah.
your mortgage. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. So
it's a
many,
gilded cage. You know?
yeah, so many writers come to me and they're like, I'm not doing the right things. I'm not like I should be doing other like I should be better. And I'm like, but let's strip all of that back and be like, what do you actually want this to look like?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, what do you want the day to day to feel like when you are pursuing this? Like, if you just want to be the hermit author in a cabin somewhere, you can do that
yeah.
without monetizing it.
Totally, totally. Or maybe that means you're a ghostwriter. And that was like, I mean, there were times when I stopped ghostwriting and started writing my own stuff and selling my own stuff, there were times when I really missed ghostwriting because there was this lovely joy that came from A, knowing I was going to get a paycheck off of those words, not having to like wonder if I could market it and sell it and maybe get money,
Yeah.
but also in being able to just remain totally anonymous and not have to do the marketing thing and just be able to like be creative. I don't know. Part of me still misses it, to be honest. There are days when I'm like, there was something lovely. It was much more just like a normal job, you know, but I got to write.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
always the one I'm trying to like convince
Yeah.
people. I'm like,
It
also
doesn't
when people
make
are like, how do you write quickly? I'm like, trust me, when your paycheck is directly correlates to how many words you can write per hour, trust me, those words start to flow. You're like, I need my next paycheck.
yeah, yeah,
You can
yeah.
type awfully fast when that's the case, you know?
And it doesn't like invalidate your writing skill if you don't follow a particular path either.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, I think there's like that's the like with my husband, that's what I'm constantly telling him. Like, I think sometimes there's something like really beautiful and just like maybe you are more passionate about the actual craft of it because when it comes down to it, when you're a writer, when you are writing for a paycheck, it becomes much more about what the readers want and what they, you know, than what you want to write. And it becomes, you know, you can hopefully like what I feel like I did a pretty good job with myself of like finding that happy medium for me, you know, like meeting their expectations while also writing stories that made me happy and lit me up. But it's not always easy to do that. And there were definitely some books that were like a chore because it was like, oh, I know they want this couple and I don't really feel like writing this couple right now, but I got to write this because I made a promise, you know, and it suddenly becomes like this, you know, which I'm not complaining by any means, but it's like something to consider, I think, when
Yeah.
you're first starting out, you know. And same thing with screenwriting, to be honest with you. There's like, you know, there's things that are more marketable than others that I could be writing. And it definitely goes into play because I think considering I am someone who chose to make writing my living, I'm
Mm,
a kind of practical person
mm,
with the caveat that I chose to be a writer. So aside from that very obvious non-practical decision in life, I'm pretty practical and I make a lot of decisions based on like money and you know what's going to get me to the next level of where I want to be. And so I feel like I'm kind of constantly on that line, like straddling the line between what do I want to write and also what can I potentially sell? You know, and it's like the best is when you can find an overlap, but it's
yes.
not always the case.
Yes.
But I found a nice thing for myself these days where I feel I leave room now that I've found a way to sell my backlist. I actually leave room in my calendar for passion projects because
Mm,
like because I also feel like, you know, part of the reason I hit burnout was just not just it wasn't the quantity so much as it was not leaving enough room to do work on things that I wanted to work on. And then, you know,
yeah.
that's, but now I'm like, I try to find that balance of like, okay, well, this I have to work on this week because this actually stands a chance of selling and this person wants to read it and blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, okay, but next week, go back to that weird project that might never see the light of day and
Yeah.
like find the joy right there, you
Yeah.
know? So,
I mean, writing to market has become such a huge thing lately.
yeah,
And I feel like so many writers feel the need to shoehorn themselves into writing for market too. But
yeah,
the balance that you need to find, like that overlap that you were talking about.
yeah. And I think if you can find it, I feel like I'm pretty lucky in that sense because I always wanted to write romance. My first book that I wrote was a romance. It was a YA fantasy romance, but it was a romance, and I pretty much never strayed from romance. And romance always has its kind of is pretty marketable, and you know, it's pretty easy to write for market within that genre. So I feel like it was kind of like I never really wanted to write the next great American tome. I always just
Yeah.
wanted to write like a feel good escapism kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so I think that's always kind of market friendly.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was kind of lucky in that sense. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have made the choices that I've made if I wanted to write different things than that. But I'm like, no, I don't, even now, I'm like, I love the screenplays that I'm writing and stuff. I'm like, oh, I want to write what I want to watch, which is escapism, you know?
I mean, what I've been talking about a lot lately is that you have to accept the consequences of your decisions.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
if you decide to write the next great American tome, you have to
Yeah.
accept the consequences of what that decision entails, right?
Yeah.
You decide to show up on TikTok or YouTube, you also have to accept the consequences of what that entails.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think like, you just if you have to decide if you're going to let that scare you off or
Yeah.
not, if like
Yeah.
the downsides of that. And then also I do think there's ways to, I have a bit of like contrarian brain, like where people tell me I can't do something or like I shouldn't do something. I instantly in the back of my back of my mind, there's a little voice that's like, hold my beer. Like as soon as like, which I'm like a bit of a people pleaser by nature, but like, so it's surprisingly like, but when people say you can't do that, I'm like,
Mm,
now I'm going to do it. Now
yeah.
I have to do it. I have to
Adding
show
that to
you
my
that I
list.
can. Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for that mentality as well, though, where it's like, yes, you have to accept that there's these risks of it not doing well. I think you have to be realistic and somewhat practical in going into it. Like if I'm going to go into a market where there's no real audience, I have to accept the fact that it might never sell. But at the
Mm,
same time, I think a lot of the naysayers out there are trying to justify their own lack of success.
yes.
And that's the other reason I went to TikTok with this channel is because I think I am getting so tired of people telling me I legitimately will go on there. I start most videos these days saying I'm a six-figure indie author turned produced screenwriter. I am like telling you in the front thing, like this is what I'm doing and have done. And I will have people in the comments being like, that's nice and all, but you can never get a movie made today because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, did you miss the part where I said I'm a produced screenwriter? Or like, or they're like, oh, that's nice and all, but no one can make money as an indie author. I'm like, did you miss the first part of that sentence? I don't know. It
Yeah.
drives me nuts when people tell me, and that's the thing, because I'm like, you're telling me who I've already done it, and yet you're
Yeah.
still feeling the need to tell me that I can't do it, which I find really odd. But then also, I'm like, but then they're also telling people who are not there yet, who haven't gotten there yet, but are working toward it. And that just drives me insane because I'm like, you tell yourself no to whatever you want. You can be a Debbie Downer about your own stuff because that's your prerogative, but stop telling other people what they can and cannot do. Like this,
Mhm.
it is a very like the market is super saturated on all fronts. Everyone wants to because and for good reason because it's like the best job ever, right? Like if you can actually make money at being a writer, it's like you get to live in your head and tell stories all day long. Like it's a great job.
Pretty great.
And so of course it's this, of course it's super saturated. Of course everybody wants to try it. And, especially when it's self-publishing and anyone can try it. And so of course everyone will because it's a great job. So yes, you have to work really, really hard to get it. But I, I started two new pen names not too long ago, and they both made after 1 year. One was a totally secret pen name, and one was a joint pen name that we gave very little attention to. And they were both making part time income by the end of the year because we knew what we were doing and had figured out a lot of stuff. Which I'm not saying that it was easy, and I'm not saying that like, but I do think that like people who are like, oh, it's impossible to have a career now. I'm like, oh, I have friends. I have lots of friends who have started either new genres this year or new pen names. It's still possible. Is it probable? No. Is it likely that you're going to like do amazing like right out of the gate? Like no, because there's a learning curve, but it's definitely possible. And the same thing with screenwriting. Like I had so many people tell me like how impossible it is. And there's always those stats that people love to say, like it's like a less than 1% and blah blah blah. I'm like, cool. You can take your stats. I will be over
I
here
mean,
working toward the goal, you
it's
know?
less than 1% of people who actually sell a book.
Is that right? Is that accurate? Oh my
For
God.
people who want to like write a book, because like
Yeah.
3% of Americans want to write a book,
Oh, right, right. And then there's that side of like how many have started
who've
and how many
actually
people have
started,
finished.
how many people finished, How many people
Yes.
published? How many people sold what they published?
Yes, it's
It's
yeah. But
less
if
than
you
a percent.
focus on that, it's freaking depressing. I would give up tomorrow if I focused on those numbers. And I did it. But I hear what you're saying. It is incredibly difficult. And that's why when it comes to the TikTok channel and talking about screenwriting and getting your book on screen and stuff, I'm very passionate about this because I'm like, I just want to be the voice out there that's like, it's not probable. It is very unlikely, but it is also not impossible. And like screw anyone that says that it is. Like, like I think anything is possible if you choose to make it so, get that little like hold my beer voice going and go after it.
Yeah.
But you
I
just have
think,
to work really, 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 really hard.
and
you know?
things are changing. It is becoming
Yeah.
more possible as we go, too.
Yeah, everything is. I mean, there's more outlets than ever for in all areas of art, and there's going to be pros and cons with that. Like before this started, I think we were talking about the how YouTube was like more hours viewed than all these other channels, all of the actual like streaming channels. And it was, it's like, yeah, anyone can put up a TV show on their own channel right now. And I can make it on my iPhone because that's how good the video quality is of these things. So it's becoming more and more accessible. Does
Yeah.
that mean that I'm going to like make millions tomorrow by putting it? No, obviously not. Like but I do think, the entertainment world is kind of at that point where the indie publishing world was years ago, which is who knows where it's going to go next, honestly. Like who knows? I don't. I'm not very good at trend forecasting. I wish I was, but like but there's, the way things are changing. I'm like, yeah, it reminds me very much of when I first started in the indie author world, where it was like, some people, there was when I started, it was very much still looked down upon to be self-publishing, and there was like a bad stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like public perception is so lags behind, because now I have people coming to me being like, oh, I hear that there's so much money to be made in self-publishing. I'm like,
Yes. Yeah.
that might have been true like 5 years ago, like 4 years ago, even three,
Yeah.
and I feel like the public perception is just like a little bit behind. And I'm like, oh, and but I think the same is true with like Hollywood. I think it's interesting to see the different ways that people are, how it's evolving. I think there's more room now than ever. But if you talk to anyone, if you talk to any of the naysayers, they'll tell you like, it'll never happen because they're never buying and blah, blah, blah. Um, but yeah, I've just refused to let those voices stop me
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
this
I
point.
mean,
I plan to prove them wrong every step of the way, and that's all. But at the same time, I
psychology.
try not to be, yeah. And I try not to be unrealistic though either, because I never want to be that sugarcoating like voice of just like woo woo magic. It's just like, it'll happen, just dream it. I'm like, no, it's very improbable. But who, no one is saying that you can't do it in this day and age. You
Yeah.
can literally get out your iPhone and make yourself a little movie like right now. Go
Yeah.
do it.
Well, we've touched on marketing throughout this entire conversation, talking about TikTok,
Yes.
talking about YouTube, talking about marketing books like through Shopify versus Amazon versus, TradPub and screenwriting. So if you had to boil it all into like one lesson for the audience, what would that one lesson be?
Go your own way, which it's so true. It is go your own way. I think the times I have gotten myself into the most trouble is the times when I've looked around and tried to do what other people are doing, to be honest with you. Like I think, we said it before, but there's that wisdom in all of the groups that's always like there's no one way to the top. And it is absolutely the truth. Like I think uh Becca Symes, who talks a lot about strengths, and I love her. I love her coaching stuff. I think she's so smart. But she talks a lot about like correlation versus causation, and she talks about how the people who you hear speaking and who are so confident about what they're doing and are telling you like this is the way to do it. It's usually more of a correlation thing than a causation. It's like that's what worked for them because
Yes.
that's where their strength was, and that's what worked for them. And because of that, they think that's the way to
Yes.
do it. But the problem is my strength will never be the same as your strength, which will never be the same as somebody else's strengths. Like our strengths are always so different. And I think when the only times I finally started getting success was when I stopped focusing on or trying to replicate what worked for people who had different strengths than me
Yeah.
and started focusing on my own. Like, even now, I always listen to Alex Hormozy. Like I love the
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of those things, even
yeah,
though like it's like the bro vibes are overwhelming. But like,
yeah.
but I think he has a lot of really smart things to say. But he and his wife are always talking about how like you have to be consistent, consistent, consistent. You'll never make it anywhere if you're not consistent. And in my head, I hear that like Becca Science thing, and I'm like, that's because that's what worked for you because you are a consistent person. I
Yes.
am not a consistent person. I have a lot of good traits that I will happily chat about, but consistency is not one of them, and it never has been. I love to jump around. I love to work on different things, but I've found ways to make it work for me. I've also found ways, but where I lack in consistency, I think I make up for in persistence. I
Mm,
will stick with a problem and figure it out, and I will stick with things. And but I may jump around, and I may do things, and you know, if I told myself I had to do TikTok every single day, I would quit like tomorrow because it's no way that I will ever do that. I will never do that. I actually just started a Substack because like I got peer pressured by a friend. They're like, Substack, where is that? And you know, there's like everyone's like, try to monetize. And I'm like, and there's no way I'm gonna commit myself to doing this regularly. Because it like I had to hire an assistant to send out my newsletters for my book business because I was so inconsistent on that. And so I had to like, so for me, I'm like, I am not consistent, but I'm trying to find ways to work with that, you know. So like I will jump around, but I can juggle. And I, you know, I think for the longest time I felt shame in the fact that I because of the way the world I was like so shameful of the fact that I like jumped ships so many times with genres and pen names and whatever. And now I'm like, that's actually kind of a cool skill. You
yeah, it
know?
is.
It's like it's a cool skill to be able to write in lots of different genres and to be
Yes.
able to do like different voices and things. But I didn't see that for so long because I was comparing myself to the people who were like, stay in your lane, and the
Yep.
only way to do it is if you do this, you know. And so in the same thing right now with consistency, like, you know, I hear them talk and in my head, I'm like, I'm going to replace that with persistence because that's what I'm good at. I am good at sticking with a problem and not giving up. I'm stubborn as hell, but I am not consistent. But I think I found ways, you know, in the book business, it meant hiring that part time assistant who does the stuff that should be consistent. She does the things for me that I like, and she's very methodical and detail oriented, other things that I am not. She's organized, also something I am not. You know, so I feel like there's ways to like kind of um, fill the holes where are the where areas that I know that I'm lacking, but
Yeah.
then really just lean into the things that I know that I can do well. Like for example, I in the you know the screenwriting world, it's easier, not easy, to sell things that are like more movie of the week, like
Mm,
Hallmarky stuff and Lifetime. Um, and this appeals to me because I'm like, oh, I'm good at writing. I can do these things, right? So the first one that I sold was a Hallmarky Christmas movie. Now they're not buying so many Hallmarky Christmas movies right now for reasons that I will not bore you with at the moment. But they are looking for thrillers. So, but like, guess what? I have a thriller in my repertoire because one of the things I'm really good at is following trends and jumping on them quickly and you know and being able to jump back and forth. So like it surprised the heck out of this producer who only knows me as like Christmas like whatever, and I was like, oh, I know I have a really dark thriller because I wanted to try doing something new. So again, I'm like, okay, that's a strength. I wouldn't have thought so 5 years ago, or maybe a little more than that, but when I first started and everyone told me that that was a weakness, but I'm like, they were wrong. It's a strength. So
yeah.
I think for advice to other people, it's like, yeah, you got to figure out what your strengths are. I know people who have made seven-figure businesses. A lot of them, I actually have a lot of friends who've done seven-figure businesses, and each of them got there in the most different way. Like one of them is consistent, tried and true, like workhorse, like puts out the same kind of thing every month. One person is gone all in on you know, TikTok shop and swag and doing these like big like promo things, but every single one of them is different. And I think when like there are rules you have to learn, then you have to kind of figure out the landscape of whatever market you're in. But once you've figured that out, I think the best thing you can do is kind of like ignore what everyone else is doing. Shut out the advice and the people telling you that this is the way if anyone tells you there's like they know the secret, run, like run in the other direction because there is no secret. There is no secret pill.
Yeah.
There's no magic formula for
Yeah.
any of this stuff. We're all just figuring it out as we go. And anyone who tells you that they've got it, it's like, well, you've got yours.
I
I'm
mean,
happy for you.
we're different people with different experiences, different skill sets, different preferences, different fears, different traumas, that we're
Yes,
bringing to the table.
absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
that mixture of things that creates our special sauce.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what makes our writing unique, but it's
Yeah.
also what makes what's going to have to make our marketing and how we sell
Yes.
ourselves unique. And I think like if you can kind of embrace the fun in figuring out your strengths. And my thing though is I have to like, this is my caveat here. I say that, but I think the fear though is that then people never try anything new because I have done this before where it's like, well, I'm not good at that. I'm
Yeah.
good at this, so I need to stick with this. But the problem is you don't know if you're good at something until you've tried it for quite a while, until you've gotten past that hump, and then so that my fear in telling people like just follow your strengths is that then they will never try anything new. Because if I had not tried anything new, I would still be like never even sending out a newsletter, which is where I was when I first started.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to at least try and give things a fair shake. You're not going to be great at everything, but you also won't know how to delegate things or hand things off or hire things out unless you know how to do them yourself. Like it's never really,
Yeah.
I think you need to at least try things to the degree that you know enough to know that you should hand it over
Yes. Yes.
and know how to hire somebody. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like I think that the problem is I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to hire, like, I've met a bunch of new writers recently who are very quick to hire assistants or
Mm.
marketing help, which is fine, except that I feel like if you haven't even tried it or given a shot, you like they need you there's some things that you as the writer need to be able to do, which is the
Yeah.
voice and the clarity of the message and your branding and what you want to there's some things that like
Yeah.
you kind of have to just
And I think
figure
it's
out yourself.
also discernment to know who to hire too.
Right. If you
Because
don't know it, then anyone's going to tell you. You're going to be like, "Oh, sure, he says
yeah,
he's good at Amazon ads," and you're
yeah.
like, "But if you've never even tried it, you don't even know what questions to ask to
And
be
you don't
like,
even know what the success markers are.
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
what
it's very easy to
qualifies.
waste money. It's so easy to waste money in this
So
business.
easy.
It's like, oh
So
my God,
easy.
just like, here, take it. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Fix
think
my
that's like a
problems.
common, exactly, exactly. And if only it was that easy.
Oh,
But
I
that's the thing. I
know.
think every time you come across like a problem, it's like, usually it's just like, that means that's something you need to learn. Even if it's not something you end up doing in the long run. I feel like in order to make the best decisions and the best choices for your business going forward, it's like you have to be knowledgeable. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, knowledge usually comes by making mistakes and having to go through awful learning curves, which I'm going through right now. So I'm like, I feel for everyone who's going through learning curves. I follow this one branding lady on YouTube, and she's funny as heck. And she calls it the cringe mountain. She's like, you can
Oh,
never get anywhere without going up, going across cringe mountain. Like you
yeah.
have to climb it. And I'm like, that's where I am right now. I am TikTok, YouTube. I'm doing all these things right now that I'm like, every time I get done with the filming, I'm like, that's another step on Cringe Mountain. Here I am. I live here now.
Mm,
but but no one can hold your hand and haul you over it. You just have to
yeah.
you have to do it yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
Sadly.
I know we've covered a lot. So, is
Yeah.
there anything you want to wrap us up with?
I don't think so. I think I covered it all. I gave a lot of I stood on my high horse there for quite a while. So
No, I
I'm
mean,
like, screw you, naysayers. Yeah.
I mean, this is what I say all the time. Is like I can talk about this stuff for days. Like I
I know.
literally
Yeah.
just last night had a dream where I was teaching people about brand values.
Oh, nice. Nice. I
I've
love
had
it.
dreams lately where I'm teaching authors marketing, and I'm just like, it's infiltrated my unconscious. Ah.
I know. I feel like that's why I've taken my high horse to TikTok now, and I just like constantly out there just being like, don't you tell me what you can do. I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't even know. I've gotten all sassy about it. But yeah, but I think that's like that comes with like having done this for a while and doing it in different realms. I'm just so, yeah, I just if I can just go across to everybody watching this and give you a little shake and be like, anyone who tells you that you can't do this, like, shut them heck up. And somebody tells that you can do it because they have the miracle, also tell them to shut the heck
Yeah,
up. Like
yeah,
that's what I would like to say. There's no, there's no yes. There's only you have to go through it yourself and
yeah,
try to block out all of the other voices, which is
yeah,
really hard to do.
yeah.
But
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, at one of my events that I did this year, I talked about the importance of having affirmations as a writer. And they were
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Oh, what are your affirmations?" And I have like affirmation songs that people like produce. They're on
Oh
Spotify.
nice.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
repeat to myself when I'm like washing my face every day.
I love it.
And
I
so it's just
love
like
that.
part of my daily routine now of being like, yes, I am great. Yes, things are great.
I love
Like
that. I
washing my
love
face.
that.
And it's just
Yeah.
you have to make that part of your routine, like to become, reject phobic.
Yeah, you can't reject me because I'm
Yeah.
not looking for permission. That's
Yeah.
my thing right now is like I'm just like why I feel like so many of us, including me, maybe I'm just projecting. Maybe this is mostly me, but for I feel like I spent so much of my career looking for permission and like
Yeah.
validation and just looking for this outside thing, that was like and even now, and I think it's like a lot of it because I did go through 10 years of rejection letters when I first started off. I feel like I'm like even now there's a little part of me that's like say I'm worthy. Somebody tell me that I'm worthy. And it's really hard to silence that. I think we're all kind of looking for that, especially when it's like a creative endeavor
Yeah.
that's coming from your heart and
Yeah.
and it's so we're so vulnerable for putting that out there. I was actually teaching this class not too long ago, but we were talking about and I was like, I had this moment where I was looking at all the people in the Zoom room, whatever. Um, and had a moment of like, what a weird breed of people we are as writers. Like that, you have to keep this sensitivity because you can't you can't have a hardened heart and like write, and write well. You have to, you have to keep this like open, vulnerable part of you. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if you're putting it out into the world and trying to make money off of it, you have to have this like thick skin and be able to like be brave and courageous. And it's such an odd. I felt like this moment of like, oh, looking at this whole room full of people, like room, Zoom room full of people. But it was like, wow, I mean, I feel very honored to be in that group of people because I think it requires a very special trait and it's
Yeah.
not for the faint of heart and it's for you have to be very strong but at the same time you have to be very sensitive and I don't know I think it's awesome and I wouldn't have any other career but it's definitely not for the faint of heart. And I think being able to find that line is requires a lot of introspection and a lot of mindset work, a lot of woo woo stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
I think you have to, whatever works for you to kind of get past those blocks and those hurdles. You got to
Yeah.
do whatever you have, whatever works.
These days, I honestly don't really think about it as resilience anymore because I'm not trying to grit through the experience.
Yeah.
I think of it more as like adaptability, is that I can show up
Yes.
to the present situation with my infinite creative ability
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then choose how I want to proceed forward based on
Yeah.
the facts of,
Yeah. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I think there is no underestimating adaptability
yeah,
um, in every way. And like, very personally, mindset wise, whatever, but also just like the sheer practical matter of doing this, like being able to adapt is
yeah,
huge.
yeah,
Being able to go with it and shift because it's constantly changing and what people want from you is always going to be changing and how people see you is going to be changing. And so if you can like know who you are and yet adapt to the situation and the circumstances and what people, yeah, I think it's a superpower. Let's just go ahead and say it. You're a superhero. There, I said it first.
just give me a cape.
I said it first. She's a superhero. I got it.
Thank you, thank you, thank
You
you.
can use that as your tagline. I got you.
Excellent, thank you. By Maggie
Yeah.
Dallen.
Yes, exactly. Maggie says I'm a superhero. I
Yes,
love it.
take that to the bank for sure. Well, this is powerful stuff that we've been talking about. And audience, we just
Yeah.
encourage you to share your own thoughts and feelings and insights and stories with us as well. We'd love to know how you have navigated these waters yourself in terms of writing careers and marketing strategies and just how, I mean, really what we've been talking about is just like showing up for ourselves and
Yeah.
doing that on a public stage, which is terrifying
It's
sometimes.
so hard. It's so hard.
You're like,
I
oh
definitely have
no.
days where I'm like, I'm just gonna go under the covers. Like I don't
Oh
want to do. Yeah,
man, I need
yeah,
that. Man,
yeah,
absolutely. And
yeah.
please do let us know if you have any questions. I know we cover a lot of different vocabulary terms in these podcasts, and I don't really have like a glossary to share with you all. And so I will say you can always reach out to me if you have any questions. Maggie.
I'm around. Yep, you know where I am.
Yep. So special thanks to Maggie for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. This was fun. I could talk about that. I could literally be like, let's get end this, and you and I will just hop on a call and talk all night long.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah,
great.
yeah. I mentioned this before we started recording that like I've been podcasting for so long at this point that I pretty much have it down to an art. I won't even say it's a science anymore. It's an art form. Because you could literally wake me up at 2 a.m. nowadays, like from a dead sleep, and I'd be able to like give you my podcast intro.
I love that. I love it.
Which helps when you are sleep deprived, overstimulated, and exhausted at events that you're doing, like 5 day
There
con,
you go.
which I did 2 weeks ago.
Oh man. You're like, I don't even need to think about it. Hold up. I
Yeah,
got this.
I literally crashed my bike on the way to a panel during this
Oh,
con. And
oh
so I
my
showed
God.
up, I ran to the EMS, they patched me up, and I was like 10 minutes late to the panel. And
Oh
I
my
just sat down
God.
on the panel, like adrenaline focused. And I was like, I can talk. What do you need from me?
That's insane. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Where's that superhero cape? It's official. You got this. You're proving my
That was
point.
not my bragging. That was just me being like,
You
this
were
is,
stating a fact. See, that's not bragging. It all comes back. It's
but
coming
it's
full
a
circle.
skill that you build over time to just be able
Yep.
to be on a public platform and have
Show
something
up.
to talk about.
Yeah, and show up. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think the more passionate you are about what you actually have to say, the easier that is. I think, it's like once you really hone in on like what lights you up,
Yeah.
like yeah, like this topic is one that I'm grateful that you wanted to talk about it because otherwise like my husband just be like, oh my god, enough. Enough. It's like I'd be talking about this whether I'm on a podcast or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, please comment, like, subscribe below. Check out Linktree/Clairjoyance for my links, and then where can folks find out more about you?
I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I think I'm on as Maggie Dallen, either Maggie Dallen author or author Maggie Dallen on pretty much everything. So
Yeah,
one of those.
I'll
Yeah.
put those links in the notes
Yeah.
for easy access. So
Perfect.
until next time, please remember that you all have extraordinary stories to share, and I'm rooting for you as you use them to change the world for the better. Take care, guys.
Bye. Thank you.